Hi everyone, Dr. Nemechek here. I want to talk about what a relapse looks like in a kid with developmental delay or autism and developmental delay, and just kind of how does that unfold and what kind of risk do you have here? Now the progress we see in using the protocol so basically we lower inflammation, and by doing so we allow these natural mechanisms in the brain to further normal development. Well, development is actually a combination of two things. One is it's this pruning up properly of the brain, and that's primarily done by pruning, getting rid of neurons. Okay, they estimate you're born with about 100 billion neurons, and you prune it down to about 50 billion neurons. Okay, so you got to prune that down, and accompanying that is a litany of just mild to serious injuries that can occur. So an injury, you literally are snapping neurons. Okay, and uh, and these injuries, as we've talked about, can be from serious to very mild kind of physical injuries. They can be from emotional traumas, which are quite common. They can be from inflammatory stress, like vaccines and COVID and surgeries, things like that. Okay, and the injuries potentially in kids with autism where they're producing propionic acid, it looks like the propionic acid may actually injure the brain too. At least it does in animal models. So they may actually have like a chemical injury. And so those are the two things you gotta fix. You gotta prune and you gotta repair. So you lower inflammation, your microglia and these neurotropins and all this process turns on. You start seeing these developmental gains, and let's say you're lucky, your kid's neurotypical, and then just life gets busy. And believe me, this happens a lot more than people think. Um, Life gets busy, and suddenly you aren't giving them inulin, and they kind of doing okay. So you think, oh, they don't need inulin, and you just skipping on the fish oil and olive oil, and you aren't doing anything. And what will happen is inflammation will start rising because of these inflammatory oils in the food supply. That'll start rising, and then if you're going to start getting some bacterial overgrowth, it's always going to come back. All right, we do not know how to prevent this from coming back. So that'll start coming back, and as this inflammatory stress starts rising, what does that look like? As far as we know, there is no developmental regression. All right? If they've learned to socialize, speak, if gross and fine motor control are improved, etc., you never lose those things. All right? But the injuries come back, and as I talk about in multiple videos, the low blood pressure issue primarily comes back. And so they can't focus, they can be more anxious, they can start being a little fidgety. It can seem like, reading or language is getting worse, but it's just that their ADD kind of low blood pressure stuff is really bad, and it's coming back. So you won't lose the developmental gains by pruning, but you will lose the gains from on the repair side. So the same things you had before come back. And it doesn't tend to be catastrophic. Okay, it's not like, if say the first of the month you stop your fish oil, olive oil, inulin, and let's say right away you relapse, the inflammation comes back, it's usually a month or two, and you start like, uh-oh, something's happening. It's this kind of slippage, just kind of slowly happening. It's not like suddenly, boom, it crashes. Okay? And so that's what it would look like. And so you got to just remember, you got to stay on this thing. These kids need fish oil and olive oil for decades because they haven't bothered to fix the food supply, and it doesn't look like they are right now. And the gut bacteria will always come back. So we have to have some strategy to keep that controlled. Okay, if they're older and mature, and they can say, "Hey, mom, I think my reflexes." They can feel the relapse of SIBO. then you can use rifaximin, say, intermittently. If they aren't really mature enough or reliable enough to do that, you might put them on a monthly cycle of rifaximin. If they're younger and they're neurotypical and they're doing well with the inulin, keep them on the inulin. Okay, don't take them off the inulin. So anyhow, hope that helps. Just kind of a little pointer of like, what does that look like in the future if that were to happen? All right, everybody have a great day. Bye.